I'm Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call Tom Atkins Horror. Although not initially interested in becoming an actor, Tom Atkins has gone on to play roles in television and movies since the 60s. While known for a leading role on The Rockford Files, Atkins' career took a turn towards horror in the late 1970s and early 80s. His work with directors like George A. Romero, John Carpenter, and William Lustig solidified Tom Atkins as a horror mainstay. And today's block features some horror fan favorites. The sleepy little seaside community of Antonio Bay is getting ready to celebrate its centennial. They want to have balloons, a parade, the whole schmear. But the witching hour and a foreboding coastal fog that moves against the wind may have other ideas. Tom Atkins, Jamie Lee Curtis, Janet Leigh, Adrienne Barbeau, Hal Holbrook, and a whole shipload of familiar faces star in John Carpenter's The Fog from 1980. When a man carrying a Halloween mask ends up dead and his attacker self-immolates in a hospital parking lot, Dr. Chalice teams up with the man's daughter to get to the bottom of it. Together they go straight to the mask factory looking for answers. Will they find out what's so special about these masks? Will they find out what happened to Michael Myers? And what's up with Stonehenge? Tom Atkins and Stacey Nelkin fuck around and find out in Tommy Lee Wallace's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch from 1982. Two college nerds dying to join a frat are told to steal a dead body and put it out on the lawn. But the prank turns deadly when alien slugs burst out of the dead body, burrow into the students, and turn them into the Walking Dead. Only Detective Ray Cameron can save the human race, but first, he'll need a flamethrower. Jason Lively, Steve Marshall, Jill Whitlow, and you guessed it, Tom Atkins, all get thrilled in Fred Decker's Night of the Creeps from 1986. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
I got good news and bad news, girls.
The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
Welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I am Brian Foster, and with me, as always, is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
Thrill me, Brian.
Thrill me. That's how I'm answering the phone from now on.
Yeah.
Today we've got a very special episode where we're talking horror movies. Obviously, that's my favorite genre. And to go along with my favorite genre, one of my favorite genre actors. We're going to be doing a block of Tom Atkins horror today. I'm so excited for this. We're going to be watching and talking about The Fog, Halloween 3, and Night of the Creeps. With us to talk about these amazing films is a very special guest. Jeremy, if you could please do the introduction.
Well, I've got good news and bad news, Brian. The good news is our guest is here. The bad news is he's dead.
Oh.
And yeah, we're doing some fun video store cult classics. And to take us through this, we had to bring on film producer and horror movie buff, Adam Maffei.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Horror movie aficionado? Is this is that a good moniker for you, or should we come up with something? Yeah, just fan of movies.
Yeah, I think horror movie aficionado is the right title. If I was getting interviewed on like Shudder, maybe that would be my my Chiron on the bottom. Yeah.
Your Chiron, yeah.
So you're a producer.
Yes.
So it's good that we're looking at these movies from that lens too. It's nice to get that kind of expertise on this show.
We'll see.
Only time will tell.
We'll get into some call sheets and I don't know what, location permits, insurance forms, all kinds of stuff.
I think I have a few tidbits that I think I can add to this.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
Good.
Thrill me.
Well, so we're talking Tom Atkins movies. If anyone doesn't know who Tom Atkins is, he's been acting for 5 decades now, I believe. That sounds about right. I think one of the earliest films he was in was one with, it was The Detective with Old Blue
Sinatra?
Eyes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and he played just a smaller role, but he had that Atkins flair, and clearly that was seen on screen and brought him back for more in other movies. But during this time, he was kind of a horror king, if you will, a scream king. That he was part of these movies, The Fog being, the 1980 follow-up to, Halloween from Carpenter, Halloween 3, which was also a follow-up to Halloween that he starred in. And then Night of the Creeps, which is just a great throwback to, I guess, B-movie sci-fi, B-movie slasher, a bunch of things. It's kind of a tribute film, if you'd want to look at it that way. But let's start with The Fog, gents.
Well, and also, I guess, at least with 2 of the 3 of these movies, he was quite the ladies' man.
I cannot wait to talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, let's start with The Fog. I mean, he picks up a lady, literally picks up a lady from a hitchhiking situation, and that lady happens to be Jamie Lee Curtis, of all people.
Yeah. Horror scream queen.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the original.
You're not a
Scream
weirdo,
queen.
are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yes, I am.
I'm a weirdo. Yeah.
Are you weird?
Yes, I am.
There you go. You have the Horror King and the Scream Queen getting into a car right out of the gate with The Fog.
Yeah. Right.
I think that was maybe the first time I became like cognizant of like, oh, there's an age gap here that's uncomfortable, and I don't know if that's an intentional trope for Tom Atkins films, but it definitely follows him through his career.
But did he always look that age, though? I mean, he always had kind of an older look to him.
He did, because I fact checked it. He's I know his age ranges for a couple of them, but it's almost always over 20 years.
Oh, the difference, the delta, if you will?
Yeah,
wow.
The delta.
Wow, okay.
I think The Fog, he's closest. The Fog is at least acceptable. But
The Fog, where he's playing the character Nick Castle.
When he said that, did you guys audibly laugh? Like, just knowing the history of The Shape and Carpenter and everything, it's like, wow, you really threw that one in there, huh?
Well, and did you pick up on what Charles Cypher's name was in The Fog? Like, so he's the sort of radar weatherman talking to Stevie Wayne.
Yeah.
And his name is Dan, the weatherman. Dan O'Bannon.
Dan O'Bannon?
Dan O'Bannon.
So,
At this point, they were still talking, right? They were still in good
listen,
terms?
that is kind of a surprise to me. It like in my understanding, they had kind of a falling out after Dark Star, but at least until 1980, they, he was sort of honoring him in one of his films.
Or just didn't change the name in the script and left it as is.
Yeah.
So,
It's too late now. We're in production.
John Carpenter was just like shitting out scripts at this stage, and maybe this is an old one. He just like pulled off the shelf, and they're like, we'll start shooting this one.
For being one of those kind of maybe shit out scripts, this one is really good, really moody. And I forgot how moody of a movie this actually was. Even the effects for the day, even though they could be a little cheesy, the fog itself is a really interesting effect and becomes a villain in itself. And they did a really good job of making that seem almost tangible or solid. They did great stuff with the lighting.
They do things where they reverse it going into like the hull of the ship there, but it makes it look like the fog had an intention of going there.
It sells
all
really
kind of
well.
Stuff. Yeah.
I think you can't talk about this movie without talking about John Carpenter's ability to create tone. I think any time that I'm talking about tone, I outside of horror at all, I bring up The Fog, because from the opening scene of hanging the ticking golden watch piece and the kid sitting to the side behind the campfire.
Are
you afraid of the dark?
Exactly.
With the captain from The Simpsons or whatever.
Ticking clock, campfire vibes, the radio voice, which I'm not saying that he created that trope, but like clearly that continues throughout that's the medium that connects everybody. Mm-hmm. You get the spooky like almost New England-y vibes. I know they filmed it in California, but you get this like
totally New
eerie,
England vibes though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. New England. It really feels kind of like a throwback to like Lovecraft and how he was all about the sea being this like uncharted area that is full of these creatures or ghosts or supernatural things.
Unknown terrors.
Unknown terrors, yeah. And this is just literally a group of mariners, right?
Yeah,
it's really just a group of fishermen that were rich fishermen, I should say, that were going. They were lepers. They were going to start a colony, and the people in the town were like, "Nah," or the
I don't
priest.
think so.
Yeah, we're going to take your money instead and kill you.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have this Antonio Bay be haunted for the next 1,000 years. So it's like, okay.
When the fog returns to Antonio Bay, the men at the bottom of the sea will rise up.
Speaking of the New England thing, like, man, that Adrian Barbeau's, like, 25-mile walk down to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just didn't look like California.
No.
Not at all. Was this like Central California?
Yeah, I think they filmed it. I don't want to misrepresent the exact location, but I know that they filmed it in California, or I'm confident they filmed it in California. Confidently wrong, but the whole tone of it is what I was getting. Is more the important part. It's like it just gives you that spooky vibe. Ghost story, crackling radio. You know, drinking scotch. I thought it was interesting that they play. What's it like? It's almost like jazz that comes off every time the radio falls, or like, you know, it's like even that's like counterintuitive to what you'd be expecting, but sort of sets this like hokey vibe for what you're gonna go with, and then sort of that leads you to all the good sound effects in the movie.
Yeah, the sound design is great. The visuals are great. They're doing a lot with very little money, apparently, like a $1 million budget for this one when it came out. Even in 1980, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you know, can't go into these movies without talking about the Dean of Cinematography, Dean Cundy, who went on to do such bigger films like Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, etc. But we've got him for 2 movies in this thread, so this is awesome.
I didn't realize he shot Halloween 3 as well.
I think he did everything for Carpenter up until Robert Zemeckis came calling.
Yeah, it's like
I get it.
Sorry,
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
Ahoy, mateys. This is KAB Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, beaming a signal across...
So we get a bunch of Halloween people in the fog again. Jamie Lee, we mentioned. And then we get Janet Leigh from Psycho. But we also get Nancy Loomis again.
Yep.
Playing a very similar role to...
Right. What is it, like a Tommy Trainer?
Watch out. Seen the TV cameras yet?
A Tramer. Well, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
The horror fans are yelling at me right now.
It's all right.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Let them yell. Thrill me.
Yeah, thrill me. Exactly. But man, how funny. I don't know. This movie, I think, you know, you're talking about the tone of it and all that stuff, and it absolutely nails it. And like, there's a lot of like just, you know, we're setting the pace for these things. There's like, you know, these moments with the little gas pump falling, and you know, all these like we just see these like sort of shots of the sleepy town. But on top of that, it's like this is, I don't know what, the most John Carpenter movie ever. I mean, like think about like the cast here, right? It's like, you know, Adrienne Barbeau and Tom Atkins, Jamie Lee Curtis, Nancy Loomis, as we talked about, Charles Cipher, Buck Flower, Darwin Johnston came back. I forgot about that.
Yeah, when I saw, I was like, "That's so gotta smoke."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tommy Lee Wallace again is on this one. He was production designer for a lot of Carpenter's movies. He also co-edited this movie. Like we said, Dean Cundy and Deborah Hill.
Don't forget John Carpenter himself.
John Carpenter himself, exactly.
Yeah.
And that one, I don't know. It's like Brian and you and I were texting about this the other day. It's like, so I don't see Carpenter as, I don't know what, wanting to have this like sort of Tarantino drive to cast himself in movies because he's just an aspiring actor at heart. It seems like whatever this role was, the person didn't show up that day, and he had to kind of fill in. Yeah. But it's definitely one of those things where it's like, well, why didn't we just start the scene with Hal Holbrook, like,
right?
Just finding the book
just
or whatever.
Get to the book. That's all right.
You know, it's like we kind of don't need it.
But I think by that time, like, you could also remove like the whole John Houseman at the beginning, giving the spooky story.
Yeah.
And at that point, we don't even have a feature film.
We have a 65-minute movie featurette.
Yeah.
But it's all the tone setting.
Exactly, and I think that if you look at it from that perspective, I think that opening really is strong because this movie is more or less a ghost story, right, that you'd get around a campfire, and that was a really nice setup, almost anthology-like, where there's like this rapper happening.
It's an anthology with only one story, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. If they had, you know, other stories within that, I could see that John Houseman scene playing out as, here's story number 2 as we're reaching the midnight hour, you know, but, you know, obviously this one's a little different. But he did kind of have a Crypt Keeper kind of opening to it, which I really like, but I think that it doesn't really fit, other than the fact that the kid does bring up Old Man Mansion or whatever his name is.
I'll get chewed up for this, but so the original intent after the first two Halloween movies was to switch to an anthology series.
First
that had
one.
a new,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, and then he had to get drunk and write the second one quickly.
The studio made him, right? I mean,
yeah.
Here's money.
Yeah, and he hated it, and he had to be wasted the entire time that he wrote it. I think that's a true story. Go ahead, have at it, horror fans.
Fact check me, yeah.
Yeah, thrill me. So then, is there an element of maybe the fog was one of those ideas that was noodling around that
that might be
sort of ties in everything we're talking about with the names of people that he knew and people that are in his life, and at this point they were just bringing friends together and making another movie because they could.
Because think about what a great anthology film that would be. You've got a slasher story with Halloween. You've got this ghost story with the fog, and then you've got the witchcraft and I guess
Sci-fi.
paganism story that comes from Halloween 3. That's a little
anti-Irish,
The dude from RoboCop is going to put a mask on your ass and blow you up with bugs and centipedes. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the fog would fit within that well because this one feels like it could have been a really small, contained story. Probably just like one action of the ghost coming out of nowhere. You probably shorten it down, condense it, and that could also be wrapped around the story time, right? Like the evil white-faced killer that killed the babysitters, right? Like you learn about that, and that's Michael Myers and all that. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. But I think Halloween 3 is really Halloween 2, right, when you think about it, or next in their version of the series. However, that studio money, man, that'll make you write another script for sure.
I'll take it.
You're not too proud?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not too proud.
You're not above it. Yeah.
Father, can I get paid? Why don't you come in at 6 instead of 4 tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
We were talking about the moodiness of this. I wanted to talk about one of the shots in this, and I forgot how effective it was Blake's ship, the Elizabeth Dane.
Yeah.
When you first see it and those fishermen first get encountered by the fog out in the middle of the ocean, and the ship passes by, and there's a low angle shot looking up at this boat. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was... Back in the day, I looked at that as like, this is what Pirates of the Caribbean would be like as a movie. Obviously, we've gotten a version of that.
Yeah.
But that's what it really reminded me of. That it was a big ghost ship, and it had that whole, Davy Jones, that idea of these like broken down sails, and everything really was I guess classically created, from a production design standpoint.
Right.
And I'm sure it was just some little thing that flew by the camera, right? But they gave it such scale and its ominous presence. And I just forgot how effective some, decent filmmaking with good camera angles can be without a bunch of CG.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It all falls into that. I know I'm going to be a broken record about tone and John Carpenter and this film in particular. But yeah, I think it sets that up. It gives you a little bit of magic to this world. It gives you a little bit of like scope and epicness, like Scorsese's always talking about like, how can you make this grander? What's the grander nature of this? A pirate ship cruising along next to a ship in present day at the time is probably how you make that happen. And it looks wonderful. It's like so many of the effects in this movie, even if they are cheesy, work well. I can't go into the fall season without watching The Fog every year because it literally is my transition movie. Like it's like I'm like it just sets that
summer's over.
That mood.
Yeah.
Aren't we right on the money then when it comes to this? Isn't it fall now?
Yeah,
Today.
it is. I would have been watching it had we not been doing this anyway, with no joke. Halloween 3 in the Fog for the last 5 or 6 years, my wife and I watch to lead into fall Halloween season.
We gave you some purpose now. You can actually talk about it and reflect
Babe,
on this amazing movie.
I have to right now, yeah.
I got to watch it.
I literally
I'm on a show.
That actually happened
Verbatim.
in real life. Verbatim, yeah.
I want to also bring up Stevie Wayne. You brought up the lighthouse and the radio host. I love that motif of keeping a narrator almost within the movie, kind of watching the movie with you. But at the same time, she also played the same role as a lighthouse would play. She was that one beacon that sailors would see out in the sea to know that they were coming toward land, and they know they were going the right way and not going to be lost at sea. But she was doing the same thing, and she's like, can you hear me out there? If you're out there, why don't you come in? That fog looks pretty screwed up. And obviously it is screwed up. But I thought she was great in this, as always. Just a really... Another one of those scream queens, right? That kind of show up in these types of movies on a regular basis. I love her.
Yeah,
always loved Adrienne Barbeau.
She got tired of working at that local television station in LA, and someone's watching
killed.
me. It turns out she survived that, and then wanted to start her own business, but in a sleepy little town of Antonio Bay.
Adam, if you don't know, we went pretty deep into Carpenter on this, and we went to some of his old deep cuts, one of them being Somebody's Watching Me?
Someone's watching me.
Someone is watching me. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I have not seen that one.
It was a made-for-TV movie he did, sort of in between Assault and Halloween.
Oh, wow.
It's actually really good.
You
Adrienne Barbeau's in it. It's very, very, again, mood. He's working with very little budget, clearly. He just understands what it's like to set up a scene.
Very few locations, too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to add it to the list.
Do it for sure.
I think something that you can't escape if we're here is like
New York.
Maybe this is my producer hat. Yes, New York. Wearing my producer hat is like, what was the pitch for The Fog and who greenlit it? Because if you
purely on the success of Halloween, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the pitch was,
to be.
I just did Halloween, and I've got Jamie Lee again, so let's do it.
Plus, we're going to throw back even further. We're going to bring Jamie Lee's mom on. You might know her from that little film Psycho. So we've got this cast, and it's all set up. And then we also have Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins, we've got casted. He's going to be playing a guy called Nick Castle.
And they're like, what was it about ghost pirates again? And he was like, ghost pirates that move through a fog? And he's like, don't worry about it. It's going to work. I do
Jamie
tone
Lee,
well.
Jamie Lee, Halloween.
Yeah.
Michael Myers.
I mean, what was this movie a success at the time? Obviously, it wasn't Halloween level success, but
big success for a $1 million budget. Yeah, I think it made 20x its budget.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, his movies at this time were doing well. It's not until I think The Thing when he really took a dive in box office, right?
Right.
Maybe New York.
No, New York was a modest success, as they say.
Right, but enough to make another movie, and then The Thing tries to go up against E.T. and just gets pummeled.
Yeah,
but The Thing wins out in the long run because who even remembers E.T.?
See, this is interesting because you're bringing up what they call cult status, right?
Yeah.
Over time, something gains more popularity, or that people start seeing value in it once they've got a little bit of remove from when it's first released. And I think that's a perfect example of what Halloween 3 went through. Not to skip ahead. But when it came out, people were like, where the fuck is Michael Myers? Like, what is this? Why are we calling this Halloween 3? Obviously the studio's cashing in on the name Halloween. And they could have called it Season of the Witch and made it about a bunch of killer masks, right? And it would have been a successful horror film. But, they went that route, and over time, it has become very successful. Although me, watching it as a kid, I loved that movie forever. I just loved all the bugs. And it was it was so brutally violent, though.
Halloween.
Silver Shamrock.
Again, sound effects in that are like he's setting you up physically for a reaction by overplaying the visuals and the sound effect where you're like, get this fucking song out of my I do think that Halloween 3 is not in a pompous sense, but it is a metric, like a barometer of who's a horror fan and who's just a casual watcher. Because I think that the real horror fans watched it. And they're like, this is a fantastic movie. This is a great horror film that deserves to come out of its time and still be relevant. It's fun to watch. It has all these things. I know we're jumping ahead a bit, but it's it's the people that go like, well, it didn't have Michael Myers. It's like, okay, it didn't. But the film, if it had just been called Season of the Witch and a standalone, probably would have stood up against the other films at the time.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think that it does everything right. It's got a really cool opening, right? Like a great horror opening. This mysterious person is running around. There are great moody kills, great shots. It's violence against children, which is terrifying. And the fact that there's like even some comic relief in there with that rich family, the sales guy and his family's like, hey, we're here to visit the factory. Oh yeah, well here's this room. Why don't you watch this commercial and see how you like that then?
Actually, you know what's funny? So we just finished watching Niagara, the film noir with Marilyn Monroe, and that just because we had just finished watching it, that storyline kind of reminded me of the honeymooning couple, because like that guy won some contest in Niagara as well.
That's how
and he was like his most sales or some shit. And then in this one it was like, hey, we got the most sales, we get to visit the factory.
Exactly. Oh man, that's funny. I didn't even think about that.
Hey, Mr. Cochran, just what is the final process?
Sure, it's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And speaking of like idiotic connections to our other shows, when we first meet the series of, I don't know, Westworld robots in Halloween 3, they're wearing these like gray suits, they're driving around these kind of large cars. Man, how much do they look like the agents from The Shop in Firestarter? And in fact, Dick Warlock, the sort of main
stunt guy,
is like
Michael Myers, right?
The main sort of like Westworld robot in this. He's a stunt guy. He was apparently Kurt Russell's stunt guy for years and years.
He was Halloween 2 Michael Myers.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Dick Warlock.
Well, he was one of the agents from The Shop in Firestarter. Who gets lit on fire. So I was like, well, no wonder I had that association. It was the same guy.
We need to light somebody on fire. Call Warlock.
Yeah,
that dude will do anything.
But man, they look so similar. But maybe this is the more.
He had the best kill. He had the straight up decapitation, right? Like straight up off the neck. That was awesome.
Pulling the head off like a Lego.
I love it. Just that shoot of blood. This one definitely went more into the gore than the original Halloween did, first of all, and then even The Fog. The Fog did a lot of stuff that was, more a knife coming past screen, or you'd see like the zombie hand and then a scream, which I thought was great, But this one, they went for the blood and guts.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, and we didn't really kind of touch on The Fog. Is like, there isn't a lot of sort of visceral, bloody violence in The Fog. I mean, there isn't actually in Halloween 1 either.
No.
It's pretty tame. But, we get to Halloween 3 and you just crank that all the way up to 11. I mean, that woman getting the beam in her face or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That one was nasty, right? God, it's still effective as fuck. Yeah. But in The Fog, all you really get are shots of the creatures or the fishermen ghosts that are out there, the pirate ghosts, and then you hear screams. In this one, like you said, we get the beam in the face, and then not to mention that this blood and guts is happening, but then bugs start crawling out.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do we stop the madness here with the horror? And in my opinion, you don't stop. You fucking crank it up to 11, and you start having centipedes crawling out of people's faces.
He's creating nightmare fuel at that point.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what it is. What scares everybody?
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. And we're gonna hit it all. Like we want you staying up tonight after you watch Halloween 3.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to sleep.
We've got human-looking robots that are clearly made from watch batteries and like watches, watch gears and everything. And then they're gonna pull your head off. They're gonna show up anywhere. They literally know everything. There's like this, obviously a bigger society that's happening that knows exactly where you're going to be and what you're talking about at any one time. Clearly Silver Shamrock was a little bit bigger, and you're talking about making a grander scale than what's on screen. I think Silver Shamrock is just that for Halloween 3. It's probably got its mitts and everything. You know what I mean? Like it's probably government related. It's got all this stuff, and it's just a bigger entity than you even realize.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. So I'm formulating this opinion as I'm speaking because we're sort of digesting Halloween 3 right now.
Yeah.
But when you think about the salesman character, right? He's sort of representing the American working class, and he's won this award, and he feels like he's got this great honor, and his family's flying out to the headquarters of this company that he's breaking his back for, only to get what he deserves for all of his hard work, right? And
he and his family get annihilated and melted into bugs or whatever.
As you do, right? You get chewed up by corporate America, and all your hard work goes unrewarded.
You hit your sales quota for the third year in a row? Come on over. Let's watch a commercial.
Yeah.
How about this new spot we're going to be airing on Halloween?
You're gonna be the. Yeah.
But I mean, the worst part of that is that the kid blows up into a bunch of bugs. The mother dies of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I think so did the dad. Like, I think he just kind of collapsed dead. It wasn't like anything actually happened to them. They just died of fright. Yeah. What a way to go.
If my child exploded into bugs, I think I would have
I'd be
a
pissed.
visceral reaction.
Yeah.
It would be unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be waiting for it or hoping for it, you know?
But maybe that's how that all ties together.
That family, like when they first pulled up to the little motel there, how much did they feel like the Griswold cousin, like Cousin Eddie or whatever?
That has to be who they represent, right? They're representing that character in American society.
Real tomato ketchup, Eddie?
Yeah.
Nothing but the best.
Yeah, okay, so speaking of like the Halloween extended universe here, you know, it's interesting how this one fits in, because not only do they have Nancy Loomis playing a different role in this movie, but they also have sort of an uncredited voiceover by Jamie Lee as like the fascist announcer in the company town.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Curfew.
Is this reprising her role out of Escape from New York?
Escape from New York.
And then later, at one point, Dr. Chalice, I couldn't remember his name, is sitting there in a bar watching the TV, and it's like they're advertising, watching the Halloween classic, Halloween.
Yeah.
And so that movie exists in this world. He was married to Nancy Loomis. How does this work?
Sorry, in the beginning of Halloween 3, when they're first watching the commercial and the TV goes to static, it's an Easter egg that the Michael Myers mask flies up on the screen, right? Did you guys clock that?
Oh,
I did not.
I didn't.
Go back. Here's a fun challenge. Go back. Maybe I'm insane, but I would bet all the pickles that there's a flash of the Michael Myers mask coming up
Really?
as the TV goes to static during the first visualization of the Silver Shamrock commercial.
I did not catch that.
Let's see if I'm wrong.
But there's so much like great little like video imagery in this, like not just the sort of the ending, that you know, repetitive commercial thing, even the little moment you're talking about with the kids and possibly that Easter egg, or even the moment where they're watching Halloween 1 at the bar, or advertising it anyway.
Yep.
But just the opening titles.
Yeah.
And you know, Carpenter's music in this one, I don't know, maybe surpassed the first Halloween.
I agree.
In moodiness.
Fully agree.
The soundtrack's awesome in this one. The score, I should say.
Yeah.
But it's
tone.
nice.
There you go.
It's cool because they, like I said, this is kind of Halloween 2. In the first Halloween, you get the pumpkin, right? The actual carved pumpkin as the title sequence. In this one, you get a digital version of it, or at least a TV version of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's update this now for 1982 or whatever the hell this movie came out, you know?
Yeah.
This is no longer the 70s. And then also the music did turn a little bit more electronic too. It like almost, and I think that there's a nod to the electronic realization that's like him, Carpenter, and then someone else that did the music. We can look at the credits and probably find that out. But so yeah, he definitely kind of brought this into the modern age.
Howarth, the person who worked with a whole lot there in this era.
I think, yeah, his scores are always so minimalist, but they're always so good. Like, they're just so well utilized. You know, like, if you think of horror movies, you almost always, I mean, at least for me, you hear that down with the little digital, like, reverb kind of, like, effect. And it's like, that's the horror movie sound, right? And I think John Carpenter can take a lot of credit for making that be in the ethos of the world, is that sound is there's terror coming.
Yeah,
he's great with stingers. Could someone explain to me what Silver Shamrock is? I know we touch on it a little bit, and what the plan is here. I mean, this is a mass
anti-Irish propaganda.
but is it a witchcraft thing, and that's why they pulled Stonehenge, as Stonehenge has some sort of strange power?
Yeah.
And they installed pieces of Stonehenge into these masks that would then eliminate these kids
Scrape
through some sort of
Stonehenge off.
But there was no commercial back when Stonehenge was built, right? They didn't have the Silver Shamrock commercial happening. So what was the trigger? You know, like, would you just bring them this?
You play the horns manually.
And that's what they always sang. It was just a bunch of old Irish, ancient Irish people singing Silver Shamrock theme songs.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That would be fucking scary, man. That would be kind of like a Midsummer type movie.
Same joke, but still mean it just as much. What was the pitch for this movie?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, here, listen. I know we just are coming hot off the heels of Halloween 2. I got this great idea. Masks.
Listen,
they get
how
stuck
about
in
we
the kid's
get
face.
rid of the marquee character, and instead we put on masks.
But something tells me that because they made so much money selling the Michael Myers mask, they're like, what could we do to even push the mask thing further? And then they made 3 of them for this movie that are super iconic and even used in the newer Halloween films as a throwback.
Yeah.
But those masks are pretty awesome. The witch one and the pumpkin.
And
the skull. I think they're awesome.
All tone setters again.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, we got witchcraft. We have robots. We have people turning into bugs. We got like gory gore that you could get that you can't get anywhere else.
Did you mention Tom Atkins? You didn't mention Tom. Yeah,
Tom. Well, maybe that was the sale.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you close the deal.
And we're gonna bring Tom Atkins back. By the way, this time he's got a 35-year age gap between him and his ingenue, who once again, out of nowhere, they just start hooking up, which we skipped when I was excited to talk about.
Yada.
She's like, yeah, I mean, my dad just died. Hey, by the way, what are you doing tonight?
Yeah. Well, wait, okay. We've all watched The Fog, too. What was the impetus for them being naked in bed? They're in the car. The car crashes.
Well, he's a weirdo. He says.
Yeah, they're in the car.
He admitted to it. Yeah.
Well, she was basically asking, "Are you a freak in the bed?" So that's what she wanted to know.
Freak in the sheets.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's one way to interpret it.
Adam's not buying it.
Yeah. Jamie Lee's role in The Fog is a little muddy, in my opinion. I don't know who she really is, because she doesn't really have anything to do. She just kind of latches on to Tom Atkins, like all of a sudden his adventure to go find these fishermen that were lost offshore.
Right. Yeah, exactly. She just,
Can I come with?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exact line.
I know, exactly.
She cannot
puts his arm around
resist
her
his like sort of
Sure.
Schlitz and cigarette scent, and just
keeps it in his mustache. That scent.
Divorce
flavor saver
feeling.
It felt like there was a scene missing. It's like I'm like, okay, we just got into a car crash. We cut away. I forget what scene we cut away to after the all the windows blow out in the car.
Right.
But we cut away from them, and then we cut back. And we're naked in bed.
Yeah,
and,
there was stuff cut for time for sure.
There
had to
right?
be at least some discussion, right? Like, well, now that we just got into an accident,
the passion of almost getting into an accident's got me hot. Let's go to bed. But
we
but
filled in the
instead
blanks.
we just come in. We just
kind of a
come in
Cronenberg
after
motivation there.
Yeah.
Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?
That's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge.
Did you guys notice? It reminds me. So when they were hitchhiking, we got a little of Jamie Lee's backstory in The Fog. And did you remember where she came from?
Wasn't it
Northern California?
Northern California, San Jose or something like that?
No, Pasadena.
Oh, yeah, that's her original.
Pasadena. Oh, we went from south to north.
Yeah,
She's hitchhiked from Pasadena. That's right.
Yeah, just like
he says
her,
San Diego. You from San Diego or something?
Right,
she says Pasadena.
Just like her character in Halloween.
Yeah.
Well, no, she's from Haddonfield,
Illinois. It was supposed to be Haddonfield, but it was shot in Pasadena.
Pasadena, Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forget if you guys talked about it, but do you know the behind the scenes little tidbit for Halloween is that it was obviously shot in California in the summer. Mm-hmm. So only the houses that they're physically filming at have leaves on the ground.
Oh, right.
And if you look at every other house, there's no leaves anywhere in the movie.
That's awesome. Yeah. Their leaf budget was limited to one house.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Halloween.
Yeah.
The Festival of Samhain. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago and the hills ran red.
But that's the other thing I think makes these stand up the test of time, right? Like, it's really tough to watch 90s movies because the CGI at that time doesn't even come close to what we are used to today. But when you use practical effects of the late 70s and 80s, we're somehow more forgiving, and it feels like...
Because they were tangible.
Yeah, it was tangible. It was of a time. You can still buy it. The Thing, like, nobody's topping The Thing as far as practical effects.
Still hasn't. Since '82. No, and it still hasn't even come close.
Yeah, and the same goes for The Fog and for Halloween. Those effects are visceral. You see things happen, and you're like, I love it.
I still think, and even rewatching it now as an adult, and it scared the hell out of me as a kid, was you brought up the beam going into that woman's face. Yeah, I think that's one of the most vicious scenes in any movie ever made. The way she gets hit by it, and then that like cleft lip she's got by the end of it, and you can just see inside like the mouth and the teeth.
Nasty.
Oh my god! But she's still alive, right? Like she's still trying to like grab it and find her face. As almost like she's like, where the fuck did my face go? Oh my god!
It's
awesome.
a misfire.
Yeah, misfire. That's misfire. Was that Dick Warlock that said that actually, or was that like one of the other
I think it was
agents?
the Irish guy. I can't remember his name.
Dan O'Herlihy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Colonel Cochran. Connell Cochran?
Connell. Yeah, Connell. Yeah, I always thought it was Colonel too when I was younger. I'm like, what is Colonel? Was this guy in the army?
No, he's just
I would have accepted
a southerner, a southern gentleman.
A great man, Colonel Cochran. A true genius.
Yeah, well. Speaking of, heads splitting open and bugs pouring out, Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
There's the connection outside of Tom Atkins.
I'll give you this connection too. You ready? All of the names of all the characters in this were the names of just like horror directors, just like in the
Cronenberg.
Fog.
Yeah, I clocked that.
Cronenberg, Romero. There's somebody who had a hyphenated last name. It was like Carpenter Hooper or something.
Clearly made by fans, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think even the school was Corman University.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Officer Craven and Officer Bava. There's just all kinds of stuff.
Cynthia Cronenberg.
So this was made by Fred Decker, who, if you know, was a writer on The Monster Squad, one of my favorites, with Shane Black. I think this is his first directorial debut. I don't know if it's his only. I'm not sure. I didn't look into his past. But I know that this was one of those that he directed I always loved as a kid. And this was one, and even on Wikipedia, they don't have the right box art. There was a better box art for this of
VHS,
looking out the sorority house window, and it was a zombie in full tuxedo ready for the prom or the formal, whatever that is that they're going to. But I love this movie. I think you mentioned it that on text, Adam, that we you didn't realize how fun or forgot how fun it was. And I think that's the best word to describe this movie.
Yeah. It's so Night of the Creeps is I had seen it, 20 years ago, whatever it is, and I just, it just got lost in the ether for me until we brought this back up. And I was watching it and I was like, how is this not a film I watch every year? It clocks
There's
in at
a lot of movie happening in this, right? Yeah. You've got the opening, which is a bunch of naked aliens on a ship.
Before that, you've got the credit sequence with the blue font running up. Just
Did
like
that
The
look
Shining.
like CG, like current CG, like even better than current motion graphics?
You mean the creeps?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Out. Well, but like so the creeps was the thing you're talking about, and like the night of, and like the little such and such presents. That was the sort of like blue. A hard-edged font that was just like The Shining and sort of rolling from the bottom to the top, just like The Shining, is crazy. So I mean, right off the bat, like they've got a reference
tributes on tributes, right?
Yeah, a horror classic.
I think this is a film made by fans for horror fans, and I think that's why they get away with all the slapsticky, silly things that happen. Because I guess one thing that all three of these Tom Atkins films have in common, is that they're
with their asses hanging out.
They're not one movie. You know, like
sorry, say it one more time.
The thing that these three Tom Atkins movies have in common that are not just Tom Atkins is that they're like not one movie. It's like it's the same joke third time around.
Yeah.
What was the pitch for this movie?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, these guys really want to get laid by this hot girl, so they think that they need to join this fraternity, and in order to join it, they got to steal this dead body.
Yeah.
By the way, there's aliens that have this ultra dangerous compound that they're trying to protect. It escaped and it went into the dead body. It was cryo frozen. They woke it back up, and and then it's
cryo frozen. That's science fiction type shit.
Yeah.
I love how when the aliens are talking, they put the alien subtitles up.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
In whatever language they're speaking.
And the aliens don't even come back until the last, what is it, like 5 seconds of the film.
Exactly.
Like,
right. You just see the ship, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Over the graveyard?
Yeah, it's the graveyard at night. We pan up on it.
And then there's
all
like
of a sudden
a spotlight, and you're like,
comes
where's the
down,
spotlight coming
like
from?
1950s alien
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
situation. It searches
Tractor beam,
around, and then the ship takes away, and we're out. But
because we know that this is not a good ending for Earth. It's going to be horrible because this stuff is now out in Earth. It's like in this graveyard, so it's kind of got the Return of the Living Dead type ending, without the atom bomb going off, obviously. But this one, at least, we know that things are not good for Earthlings, and we have fucked up, or at least these aliens that were passing by Earth at one point fucked us up.
Listen, Dick Miller, what I need is your basic flamethrower.
Yeah. Is that going to be a
can
problem?
I get you a requisition form for that? Well, you see...
He's like...
I don't have one.
What can I do you for? Well, the thing is, Walter, what I need is... I need your basic flamethrower. Flamethrower?
I think that the slapsticky stuff that you mentioned, I think that might be why this movie wasn't well received right when it came out. I think at this time, 80s movies were pretty hardcore, especially horror. And I think they took themselves a little seriously, and this one did not. And it was clear that it was very self-referent or self-aware of what they were trying to portray and tribute. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people got that. Again, over time, this movie has developed a cult status. Yeah. And I think is one of the better films. Like, there's even some emotional moments in it that you wouldn't get out of a horror movie. Mm-hmm. The note or the what's that? Sorry.
I was gonna say the conversation between the two buddies when they're like fighting, and he's like,
Chris and JC.
At least you can get laid, like all that stuff. It's like silly content, but like
there's a lot there though.
The friendship is relatable, and the you feel the emotion of both kids in that scene,
but then we also get the narration of the voiceover note that you were talking about when he understands that he's starting to turn into a zombie. Yeah. But by the end of that note, and it's really great, it's a great little like climactic plot point and all that, so you know what's going on, or at least for the protagonist. But also, he's like, by the end of it, I could walk for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, this was written pretty emotionally.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, maybe up until that point, those two characters were the very, sort of classic, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's,
totally.
80s sex comedy.
Weird Science.
Weird Science, exactly. Kind of like horny buddy cop, teen movies.
Yeah.
From that time. And, I don't know what, it's like maybe people were trying to like, want either that story or want the like, zombie thing and didn't want both or something. Maybe
want
it was,
the 1950s aliens.
Yeah.
Right.
The blob. Yeah,
it was the blob, yeah.
Yeah. With, okay, so the guy, the cryogenically frozen, or who's later cryogenically frozen, but who starts off in black and white at the sort of parking, make-out point or whatever up there. Man, how much did he look like 1950s Ben Affleck?
Yeah.
So I was like, I kept like rubbing my eyes, like, am I seeing things?
That guy's been acting for a long time.
Ben Affleck is the modern day Tom Atkins. He's
Did you guys think it was interesting that there was this whole serial killer backstory happening that connected to Tom Atkins in the past, because he was the ex-boyfriend of the girl that he met up with, right?
Yeah.
And then that serial killer comes back to haunt Tom Atkins in a way, and that whole scene where they have the standoff with this zombie.
Yeah.
Well, and when he blows him away with the shotgun, the zombie's head turns into powder.
Yep.
I love it.
So out of nowhere.
I love it. I love these gags that they put in this movie. There's so many of them, and there's only a few times when you can see the monofilament film when they're pulling the slugs across screen. Only a couple times, right? Like for the most part, it's pretty effective.
Okay, this will let some people down, but was this the creative impetus for Slither? Because
totally.
So much of the visual of Night of the Creeps, or Slither, is the visuals from Night of the Creeps.
Yeah, I think James Gunn was like, I love that movie, and I want to make a current version.
I love the
that.
ending in the basement.
Yeah.
Wait, speaking of that, okay, so here's my thing. Can anybody explain Tom Atkins' insane death drive in this movie? Like, he keeps trying to kill himself. What is going
I know.
on?
They keep walking in on him, but they kind of brush it under the rug a little bit. Like, he's like, what are you doing? Nothing. But he's got like the gas running in his house.
Yeah. I think it was supposed to be the whole PTSD of like the
serial killer
killer and the girl's body part being being so chopped up, and
he made it like 45 years. It's like like
because there were
haunted him.
There were
just
nightmare
a crazy
sequences,
night, and he's
right?
like, you
Those
know
were
what?
Nightmare sequences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
I think for most of the film in those flashbacks, we're kind of from his point of view of the torment that he's going through and that post-traumatic stress, like you said.
Yeah.
Or he's like sipping tropical drinks in a tuxedo on the beach.
Yeah, I love that one. And she kind of comes out of the water. Like, yeah.
But she's playing in reverse, but like she's supposed to not be. But so it gives you this weird like
kind of Lynchian, right?
Unearthly, like feeling.
That's an expensive shot for no reason. Why did they have to be on a beach?
Because Adam, tone. Okay?
Yes,
tonal.
Yeah.
You're thinking like a producer and not like the creative, okay?
But that's what I mean. There's a lot of movie here, right? Like for being kind of a lower budget movie. I mean, I don't know what the budget was of this movie, but I know it didn't make much money. But I know for what it was, they had a lot of different scenes, a lot of different places, a lot of different locations, and they were kind of all over the place with like tone, like you said, and visual styles. You've got a bunch of them. Like they fit a lot into this without really probably having a lot to work with.
Yeah, I think that's how you make scope in the film, right? Like you literally have like an aliens or an alien like style tunnel in a spaceship in the beginning with the steam coming out and the light panels and everything.
Very alien. Yeah.
How much did that look like the little set from Mr. Science Theater?
Yes.
They're doing the countdown. The satellite
Might have reused
love.
it from Dark Star.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they were more in on it than people will ever give them credit for, as far as this film goes. Because even when you get to the subterranean science lab where the cryo frozen body is, even the lights, they certainly could have done more with what they did. But the light panels are just like 50s version, like light blinking on and off, and
right. Yeah.
I love that. How do you even control that? It's just lights. There's no buttons.
It's
just lights.
Well, he's like, let me just hit these buttons. Oh, there's a giant button over there that says release. I'll hit that. Bang.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, and it's a big button that says it. It's like it was very tongue in cheek. It was meant for you to be having fun watching it. It's like maybe this is a large gap, but like when you watch as a horror fan Cabin in the Woods, right? So much of that movie is for horror fans to be a tribute, but also to be like, oh, that's why they always drop the thing. It's that's why they always do this. So this is why they run this direction. And I think in this film, Fred Decker and the team were doing the same thing, but like the whatever late 80s version of it was, where you're just like making fun of all of this stuff.
They're like explainer videos. They're like explainer videos for, do you want to know a little bit about 80s horror? Here, watch Night of the Creeps, and you can get 50s and 80s horror all in one.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It just was a fun movie. It's just entertaining from end to end. You don't have to ask too many questions. Their heads explode, slugs come out. Like what?
Yeah. David Paymer becomes a zombie from Get Shorty.
How great was it to see David Paymer in a kind of a straight man role? It's very weird. He's normally just like he's all like in City Slickers or Get Shorty or whatever. He's always just this like
slimy, mousy kind of
exactly, kind of a skeezy guy. But in this one, he was just like, I don't know what, the guy who couldn't remember the passcode.
It was one number and it was 0.
Yeah. How did you? What did you do? And he's like,
when he finds out, he's like,
blue
thanks.
Notebook. Yeah.
Disengage. Oh wait, that's it. Yes, bingo. I love you, Rudy. Thank you.
Well, let me ask this. So, from a producer's perspective, Adam, do you think they got to pay the actor less because he only had one line that he repeated over and over again? The janitor, what was his name? Mr. Miner.
This is how
screaming like a banshee.
Yeah, was Sag around? Was Sag around back then? Yeah. I feel like we're still in the late 80s in the Wild West of what you could do. They're like still doing some pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, like on if you're a featured extra and you don't have any lines, like they pay you less. But if the second you add a line, bam, you get knocked up a bunch. But maybe if you only have one line that you repeat over and over again, you're in a certain tranche and you don't want to go up to the next
one. You technically have one line, but you say it 30 times.
Yeah. I think the producer solution there is you record his audio once and then have him as a non-speaking role the rest of the time, and you just run that first audio every single time.
Exactly. Yeah, he just lip syncs it. Yeah.
Yeah. He only said it once.
We don't have to pay him again.
He literally says it 59 times in the film, and you're like, well, we only recorded it once. Yeah.
Screaming like banshees.
So, did you guys see that apparently the ending we all saw was, fought for because it wasn't the original ending that the studio wanted? So, apparently the original ending was supposed to be...
A studio knew about this movie?
Yeah. That's the surprising part. So I guess the original ending was like Cynthia, goes to like look at the dog that we've already had the reveal be that the dog was a slug monster zombie, and then it jumps into her mouth. In the theaters, that's what everyone saw, but maybe on home video, it was the ending we saw, which is that Tom Atkins walks down the street, falls down, his head splits open, the
slugs come out.
Slugs like run into the cemetery, and then we see the little alien ship fruitlessly looking for him. I mean, just using a spotlight randomly on those spots on Earth.
You're gonna find something that
close.
Big. Just missed it. Yeah. I forgot about that already. Even seeing this thing for like the 5th or 6th time, I forgot that Tom Atkins was the reason that the slugs made it. And that's the reason for the bad ending. Yeah.
Well,
great ending.
Because he didn't blow up his head before lighting it on fire, I guess is the...
Because he
his
was
head,
going to, right?
Like shielded the slugs from the fire, so...
And his stogie is still smoking after all that too. Did you guys clock that there is an unofficial or official Night of the Creeps 2?
Oh, really?
No.
Go look it up. But there's a follow-up film that they made that was called something else, but was marketed globally as Night of the Creeps 2.
Oh. So it's like a Zombie 2 as like a remake of Dawn of the Dead.
I don't know. I didn't follow up. Sequel. I haven't watched it yet. I just was reading about it.
Wow. So Lucio Fulci made Zombie, which was called Zombie 2 in Italy to cash in on the success of Dawn of the Dead, which was also called Zombie in Italy. Yeah.
Smart.
It's
all I'm seeing right now is that in 2019, Fred Decker said that he wants to make a sequel finally to this.
I'll find it. I just don't want my recording to stop by hitting spacebar. But also I have a good Fred Decker story that ties into the Monster Squad and Hollywood chewing me up and spitting me out.
Yes, please.
Zombie Town Zombie Town is the sequel that was marketed as Night of the Creeps 2 Zombie Town in Germany and the general world. So whatever Zombie Town is.
There is no cure, no escape, no rescue, and no one left to trust.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part we got to figure out. What the hell
You
is
can
Zombie
watch
Town?
the full HD horror movie on YouTube. Looks like for free.
There you go. Well, everything successful is for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would love to hear your Fred Decker story.
So here you go. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young Adam moves across the country to Hollywood
From where?
To be a screenwriter from Connecticut.
Okay.
I'm working in retail. I have some friends that are actors that I just knew from whatever life and such. And someone says, hey, this producer has the rights to this film, The Monster Squad, and they need someone to write the modernization of it. Would you?
I've got it partly written here if you want it.
Would you meet with this producer? I think there could be a shoe-in for you. And I was like, well, look no further. No one loves the Monster Squad as much as I love.
As you pull out your Stephen King Rules T-shirt, yeah.
And so I got lunch with this producer, and he was like, hey, so yeah, like I got the rights. We're looking for a rewrite. We had these other guys that are sort of like Hollywood script generators. These other two guys,
The Mad Lib AI,
these guys' shtick also blew me away. They just blow out shitty versions of scripts and sell it, knowing that will just be the product that becomes something else. And I don't want to give out anybody's names in this story, but they've made gajillions of dollars and happen to be like the original writers of Journey to the Center of the Earth remake and Journey to the Center of the Earth 2, which skyrocketed The Rock's career. Anyway, these guys had written a version of The Monster Squad, which this producer got the rights to. Literally 5 pages of it are just the lyrics to Kanye West's version of Bigger, Faster, Stronger, because the Monster Squad were cruising down Sunset Boulevard singing it, and he just typed the lyrics to the song for 5 pages. So that's the quality that these guys are generating.
I didn't know you could Listen, why put in work when you could just do that?
Yeah, and make money. So this is a very Hollywood story. So he's like, listen, kid, I got it. I'll pay you as you do things, and what do you got? And my thing about how to modernize it that ended up getting me this job was I said that when the monsters are coming back to life, right? The Bodies exhibit, which was popular. Do you guys remember the Bodies exhibit?
Totally.
The Bodies exhibit was in their town, like in nearby their town, and the bodies at the Bodies exhibit become reanimated and become the like ghouls that are coming around this town, along with the those are like the mummies, if you will. And,
sure.
And he thought that was phenomenal. And I had written this little segment as a pitch about that happening, and it was the kids running through the Bodies exhibit from the character that was sort of the impetus for all of the monsters coming back to life, the Dracula character, and he animates the bodies, and they start coming out of the glass after the kids, and that was my pitch for this. That got me.
I love that
job.
idea.
I
see a bunch of cross-section people like marching down the road at you. Yeah, that'd be scary.
I still want to use it.
Bodies that creeped me out. The Body exhibit, Body Works exhibit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's super. There's also a bunch of lore too about how they acquired the bodies for those things. If you if you look that up. But anyway, I really wanted to.
There's a lot of human brains in the basement. I don't know why. Act 3 will tell you.
Jumping ahead to give you a short version of a longer story. We do all these versions. I think our version of the Monster Squad script is probably still one of my proudest things that I've been a part of. He's like, hey, we've set up this meeting for you and Shane Black and Fred Decker to talk about all of this. Meeting delayed. There's a Monster Squad screening that Shane Black isn't going to be at, but this producer set up a meeting for us and Fred Decker at this screening, and he got us front row seats, and we were going to go. So we go to the screening, Fred Decker's there, and we introduce ourselves as as what we were told, me and my co-writer on this, hey, we're the writers of the remake of the Monster Squad, and Fred Dekker could not have been more furious. Like, he was like, get the fuck out of my face. I know.
Who's the writer? Who's the writer? Yeah.
He was like, I know what's like, I know about you guys. I know about your script. I'll never read it. He wasn't being rude to us, so I don't want anybody to take that away. He was just, this producer must have been a swindler and must have not actually had the rights or had the approvals to do anything and was trying to pull this together.
But you guys took the fucking brunt of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Oh, man.
And when we emailed, and there was never a real, to my knowledge, there was never a real meeting for us to meet him. And he, I guess, the producer was hoping that we would meet Fred Dekker at this thing and you know, gel and he'd be interested and it would go well and we would get his blessing, which did not happen. And then never got paid for it.
Good.
Never got.
So you must be a real Hollywood screenwriter. You didn't get paid?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So pretty standard. Standard rate.
Almost literally the final email was like, "Hey, Fred didn't know anything about this, and it doesn't sound like we actually had a meeting set up with him." And then just like non-response until we never ever heard from that producer ever again.
I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm really glad you could tell us that on this show.
Yeah. It was worth it, so you could tell us the story.
Sorry. And Tom Atkins was there. There we go. We tied it all in.
Was he really?
No.
I'm like, he wasn't in Monster Squad.
Yeah. If you wanted to tie that story in a little better, you just say Tom Atkins seduced you that night.
Yes. I was 30
which was easy to
younger.
do. You were hitchhiking. You were trying to get to the show, to the meeting. You were late. Yeah, exactly.
I'd just been in Pasadena.
You brought up the mummy in the Monster Squad waking up. The line that the cop gives when the mummy wakes up is
2,000-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves.
In Night of the Creeps, Tom Atkins gives the same exact line when he's like,
corpses that have been dead for 27 years do not get up and go for a walk by themselves.
And that's why I told that story.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. There's the tie.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's the same exact line.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the writer and director of each of those films was
the same guy.
Same guy.
Oh, well,
that's a really good point.
That reminds me. So, one thing I wanted to mention was like I love the little detail when David Paymer gets out off the little off the examination tray or whatever after his body is in the morgue.
When he sits up real fast.
And he sits up real fast. But then the next shot is we're low on the ground looking up at the I don't know what the little cart that his body's on, and his legs swing over, and one of them has a toe tag on it, and it was just that little detail I love so much. Like I don't know, it's like I feel like you never see that shot.
I don't know if this is your intent, but I was fighting myself if I was going to tell this story. So, but it makes sense.
Adam, tell another story.
For 30 plus years, right, I've had this image burned in my head. I suffered from terrible, terrible nightmares when I was a little kid, right? Like from 3 to 9 years old, just wow. Really, really terrible nightmares. And
were horror movies a way to sort of help you get through that?
I think it was a way to help me get through it, but also I think it was what caused it was I had someone in my life that
source
forced
of
me
and
to,
solution to all your problems.
The paradox.
Yeah.
But I've always had this imagery of slugs and these women looking in a mirror. And 30 years plus, so I'm 35, almost 36 now. This is haunted me, and I couldn't remember where this came from. It's from Night of the Creeps, and it wasn't until I watched it this week that I realized that this image that was like a centerpiece of these nightmares as in my childhood were from Night of the Creeps.
And all this time you thought it was Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah. It's the slugs. There's a scene where it's the slugs and
which
they're like being all oozy. Yeah. And then it's the girls in the sorority when you get that tracking shot of them like doing their makeup in the mirror and getting dressed for the night.
The ridiculous boob shots for no reason. So 80s.
Yeah, how do people talk people into these things? It's like, okay, we're going to just do a dolly shot and just, be topless, you know? What does that do for the film? I don't know.
Absolutely nothing. But usually when I brush my teeth, I have a shirt on. Not today.
Nope.
Thrill me.
Adam, it was really a pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much for your insights and stories, all relating to this Tom Atkins trio of horror films here. Loved hearing that stuff. Is there anywhere that people can follow you online, or where they can, follow you, Instagram, Twitter, etc.?
I will give my Instagram, but I will tell you that I'm the most boring person to follow. I only have Instagram, and my Instagram handle is _HeyKid.
Hey, kid.
Like, hey, kid, get off my lawn. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Dan. That's worth about 10 seconds. I'm on the air. Bye.
All right, next time on the show, we'll be talking killer TVs, where television is the murder weapon, or the murderer, however you want to look at it. We'll be talking Poltergeist from 1982, Videodrome from 1983, and 1992's Stay Tuned. Stay Tuned could not be more different than those first two films.
Yeah, I mean, the TV is still the killer here, so, I mean, and it is horrifying if you think about it. It's just presented in a funny way, maybe. But yeah, should be fun. We've got, I mean, what's more horrifying than watching television?
Nothing.
Like, apparently nothing in this block. We'll find out.
We will find out.
Maybe they're not going to have Halloween next year.
Thanks so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Ciao.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!